because the church really hasn't been taught how to handle these issues. Understand that when we're talking about the black church, when slavery began in North America, in Jamestown, Virginia in 1619, most of the slaves that came on the slave ships, none of them were Christians. Very few, if any, were Christians. So from 1619 all the way to the late 1700s, early 1800s, black folk really weren't anything religiously. It wasn't until the late 1700s where groups from the Methodist Church and the Baptist Church began to preach the gospel to these slaves, because most of these people were maybe abolitionists, those who were seeking to end slavery. So for over 100 years, 150 years, America really didn't want African slaves to know anything about Christianity, because Christianity on the whole was a threat. If a black family or black man was able to embrace the teachings of Christ, they would be rather radical. But even at that time, when whites allowed blacks to come into the church, they really didn't see it in terms of a place where there would be equality, at least on this side of heaven. It wasn't until black folk said enough is enough, and they wanted equality in the house of God, and they couldn't find it, so they started to start their own churches. But understand that these black denominations still were taught from a Eurocentric point of view. So we had to try to learn how to adapt Christianity to meet our social needs, our social justice needs. And the black church on a whole struggled with finding its identity when it comes to social justice. So when we fast forward into the 1960s, in the civil rights movement, the National Baptist Convention, the largest black denomination, struggled to support Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. when it comes to the civil rights fight for justice. They had to establish the Progressive National Baptist Convention, the progressive branch, now focused on social justice issues and began to deal with the civil rights issue. But it was a struggle because we've always been sort of taught from a European point of view. Think about it for a second. Like, all the scholars that we think of in the church are white men. We're taught that those guys who are white men were the intellectuals of the Christian faith. So we're constantly taught that white men or Western civilization or culture is high culture when it comes to theological understanding. So we're never taught to look at things from an Afrocentric point of view. And when you study Christianity, you start to realize that in the first century, all the great scholars of the Christian faith were African men. And that's critical, because what we realize is that we're never taught that the African was the intellectual or gave us most of our theological understanding. So the church is still enslaved intellectually. And until we break free from it and embrace cultural identity and understand that blackness and the fight for social justice is not radical from the Christian faith, that it is part and parcel with the Christian faith, and that such ideas are inherent in the faith, we'll have that struggle. But we have to learn how to see the church for what it is, that it's a place where justice is preached, that black manhood is significant, and when we embrace that, then we can use the faith as the impetus and the tool to fight for social justice.